At the beginning of the year, I said this year could be an absolutely legendary year for the UFC. We had super fights like Jones versus Aspinall, like Topuria versus Islam, like Pereira versus Jones or Pereira versus Tom. We had Pereira versus DDP maybe, DDP versus Hamzat Chimaev. Those are all huge fights. And we're only going to get one of them, maybe, and that's a maybe because who knows if Hamzat pulls out. Now, I'm not saying that it's the UFC's fault that these fights didn't come together, right? It's not the UFC's fault that Pereira lost to Magomed Ankalaev. And it's not the UFC's fault that Bilal Muhammad lost to JDM. But the UFC is disrespecting their fan base with some of the stuff that they're doing. For example, the main thing, the heavyweight division is an absolute disaster right now. We have Tom Aspinall, who has the shortest average fight time in UFC history, with a 100% finish rate, who finally has brought some excitement to the heavyweight division. He's a legitimately skillful fighter in the heavyweight division. Do you know how rare that is? We've never seen a guy like this before, and the UFC is wasting his prime. Jon Jones has come out and said he's done. He's not fighting anymore. He's going to hang it up. That's what he said. Yet the UFC still refuses to strip Jon Jones. Now, what no one is saying is that it is possible that this is just building up the fight. It is possible that Jones isn't actually done and he does plan to fight. But at this point, I just think that's unlikely. I think it's very unlikely. Why would Jon Jones fight Tom Aspinall? I mean, it's the hardest fight of his career by far. He's giving up every physical advantage in the book. And it's not like Tom is some unskilled fighter who only relies on his attributes. Aspinall is very skilled in his disciplines. This is an incredibly difficult fight for Jon Jones, and of course, at this point in his career, he doesn't want to take it. But why is he not vacating, or why is the UFC not stripping him? It's an entire division being completely ruined. Even if Jon Jones does fight Tom Aspinall, maybe in like November, I heard it was rumored to be happening then. Even if he does, he still held up the division for like over a year just doing absolutely nothing. I mean, people were hating back when the Stipe fight was happening because there is a rightful number one contender, an interim champion who isn't getting the title shot. And it would have been one thing if Jones retired right then and there, but instead he's dragged us along, and 6 months later he still doesn't have a fight booked. And this is just one of the things that the UFC has dropped the ball on. Another one that a rumored fight is that Alexander Volkanovski is going to be taking on Yair Rodríguez for the second time. What? In what world does anybody want to see this? Volk already beat Yair, dominated him not even that long ago. Like, what was it, like a year and a half ago? We do not need to see this fight. It was not a close fight. It was not a competitive fight, and Volk only has so much time left, and now this is what they're doing. This is two divisions where they're just completely doing the wrong thing. Why are we not seeing Volk versus Evloev? Evloev versus Volk would be an amazing fight, and a fight that Volk needs to prove that he can still, hang with the young up-and-coming contenders. Take someone zero. That would be huge for him. But instead, a Yair 2 fight? Do we really want to see this? I mean, Volk is most likely going to win. But if somehow Yair gets a fluky KO, then I mean, this is just going to leave the worst taste in people's mouths. We have Yair Rodriguez as a champion in 2025. All this just feels like the UFC is disrespecting their fan base by not doing the best fights. And look at these fight nights. The main event of this fight night, Aaron Blanchfield versus Macy Barber. Are you serious? Like, this is the main event? And we're getting so many fight nights that are just, like, kind of meaningless. Like Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. Gilbert Burns, main event in a fight night in 2025. Like, really, all I'm asking for a fight night is to have, like, one good fight that actually affects the rankings in a high way. And sure, Michael Morales, he's a contender now. But I mean, seriously, against Gilbert Burns, are we for real? It seems like the UFC is just throwing out way too many fight nights because they know the hardcore fan base that they've built up is going to watch them. And it seems like the UFC just thinks they can put on whatever fights they want because people are going to watch them. Like Volk versus like Yair too. I mean, of course we're going to watch it, but that would be nobody's first choice. We have an undefeated guy in the featherweight division who is 8-0 in the UFC, and he has to fight again before he gets a title shot. I know he's not a big name, and I know he's not a big draw, but this is also the UFC's fault for not promoting their fighters. You know, you have an undefeated guy. You can promote that so much easier to like the casual fan base. And sure, it's not like Evloev has the most exciting fight style. He's not getting finishes. But the UFC hasn't even been trying to promote any of their fighters. Dana White was promoting a boxing event. And it's just one of the things, right? How much does Dana White even care about the UFC at this point? It seems like he's focused on a lot other things like boxing and power slap. And we also have the UFC who are just cutting contenders. Like, did we forget about the flyweight Muhammad Mokaev? Sure, he was annoying and a pain to deal with, and not the most entertaining guy, but just completely cutting him because you don't like him, that's kind of crazy to me. Like, you can hate him, and he can be like a villain for the fans, someone that people want to see lose, you know, like the Jamal Hills. We need those guys in the UFC, and at least he's a name in the flyweight division, right? Like right now, how many flyweights can you name? A lot of fans aren't going to be able to name many flyweights, but Muhammad Mokaev was an opportunity to at least try to build somebody up. And the UFC just has not been doing a good job at building people up. Their posters are being critiqued for being boring and lackluster. And there's been so many opportunities for the UFC to promote their fighters, and they haven't. Dana White could go on his press conference and say, you know, Muhammad Mokaev, you know, he's a pain, but at the end of the day, he's an undefeated guy, undefeated kid. No one can beat this guy. I can talk bad about him, but he's undefeated in there, and he's going out there and essentially dominating everyone he goes up against. He could say something like that, you know, maybe with a little bit more charisma, but he's not. He's not even trying to. Could be calling Tom Aspinall the Mike Tyson of the UFC, you know, being the baddest man on the planet, saying that Jon Jones, the consensus greatest fighter of all time, is literally terrified to fight this guy. That's how scary he is. But he's not. He's glazing Jon Jones, the guy who isn't fighting, who probably won't fight again. And it just seems like a huge flop that the UFC's in. And there's just so many guys who just really don't have any hype because the UFC isn't even trying. The UFC could be, you know, producing videos, you know, putting them out online, but they're really just not doing much. I'm seeing better edits by random people on TikTok than actual UFC. You know, like you thought we could get like an actual, maybe a trailer for the UFC 317 release, you know, Taporia versus Oliveira, but no. What we got Dana White, you know, on his phone, probably just woke up being, yep, let me see the fight we got. Oh, it's Taporia versus Oliveira. Yeah, this is a badass fight. Like there was like no preparation that went into that. And I'm seeing like crazy edits online about this fight, but nothing from the UFC's end. And it does just feel a little bit disrespectful from the UFC at this point. But you can let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm sure the UFC could do a lot of things better, and that's about it.